I'll just do this part until the kitten comes, and then we'll start. I need to see. Look at his face. Look at him just writing shit down while this lunatic is yelling at his camera.
Folks, you will not believe how much you save at mypillow.com when you use order me. But it was, Mike.
Aw. Thank you, babe. Hold on one second. Set this down. I guess I'll go a little bit longer because look who's
sleeping, but
huh?
he's got a belly on him today.
Oh, look at the belly. Somebody was just eating a bunch of food. How are you? Were you okay? Are you okay? What? Yeah. What did we name this one? What's this one called?
They were calling him Garfield, but I don't know.
I don't know that he's a Garfield. He's too skinny to be Garfield. Yeah.
That's what his name was. It was a baby. We haven't really named him. I was calling him Honey.
Mm-hmm. Aw. Yeah. Look at this. So sweet. They all look at the fan. It's so funny. They all like to look up at the fan. It's going.
Yes, the boys are cream and orange, and the girls are torties.
Yeah. This little guy. Yeah. You're getting long. Look at you. You're growing so fast. You got a big belly because you ate a bunch. You ate a bunch of food. Did you get enough? Did you get enough? There you go. Look at everybody. Everybody wants to see you. Hello.
It's Chuck Jr.
Chuck Jr., yeah. Hi, Charles. He just burped. It's good. It's like a baby. Doop, doop, doop. Hello. I know. Yeah, there's a purr. There it is. There it is. There he is. A lasagna baby. Hello. Hello. Do you want to look at the people? Do you want to look over here? Oh, I know. I know. Okay. Yeah. It's a sweetheart. Just such a sweetie. What's this? What is going on? What is happening? You want to... Here, hold on. Oh, there you go, Claus. Hi, Claus. There you go. There you go, buddy. There you go. Hello. I'll hold you up. Do you want to go someplace? Do you want to go someplace? Yeah, he wants to look around. Yeah, I know. Here you go. Good. That's right. Here, go to Mama. You can go back upstairs and relax. You were ready to go to sleep. He's like, I was tired. I'm tired, baby. Okay, I'm just going to do a few more minutes and then I'll come pet you guys. Oh, good Lord. Here we go. All right, kitten break. It was much needed. It was a much needed kitten break. It really was. Okay, here we go. And this is, we've seen this dude. He's the guy with the cardboard cutout of Trump and the cardboard cutout of Mike Lindell. Yeah.
Just tell my audience, because again, I've never done a show like this before. What was the point of yes?
By the way, he never has anybody in his studio. He always does his radio show alone in his own place. But Lindell is getting up at everyone's grill.
The point of yesterday was kicking off Brank's speech. We've all been kicked off our platforms. I want to get the word out there on the election. I mean, that's a big thing for me. And
what election?
The 2020 election.
Oh, the 2020 election.
Yeah.
That was the most honest, fair election in the history of crooked elections. Listen to me. In the history of crooked elections, this was one of the. Actually, no, it was.
No, it was the worst.
It was one of the worst ever. Listen, I want to say, listen, Elizabeth, because I want you to know.
These guys are so charming. Hey, there you go. Look at that. We're selling some tanks. Thanks.
Oh, you're living in this bubble where people know what happened and everybody understands and they've seen everything. But there are people potentially watching right now, good people on both sides of the aisle, who do not.
No, that's not true at all. Good people on both sides of the aisle do not watch the Eric Metaxas show. Lunatic fringe Ron Paul wannabes watch the Eric Metaxas show. And the same people all watch when Mike Lindell goes anywhere. Good people, like, there are no middle-of-the-road independents going, hey, maybe I'll just get the general, give me the paint by numbers of this whole thing.
Cannot conceive that an American presidential election was stolen. And I have to say,
well, we can conceive it. We just know it was not the case.
Myself don't want to believe it. Even though I think Joe Biden's fake administration is utterly disastrous for America, I still believe in the...
Based on what?
American system. And I would like to think that the
Yeah, you're not convincing him.
American people made a mistake and elected Joe Biden. To me, it is infinitely more horrifying than to think that an American election where old people like my mom and dad waited in line to vote, that was not, when I think of
Why, in the middle of a pandemic, why did your parents not vote by mail?
Norman Rockwell, people, the American dream, people voting. So I just want to tell you, there are very few people, because my parents came from Europe and they love America, and the idea of it is so scandalous to me that there's a part of me that doesn't want to believe it really happened.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't. That's you're welcome.
Well, that's like when I was on Jimmy Kimmel. One of the most important things he said, and I said it last night too. He said, "Mike, would you do it if it was reversed?" And you just said it. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. 100% I would do it if it was reversed, knowing what I have, knowing that.
So why weren't you upset when Trump lost the popular vote twice, and in the case of the 2016, he was actually elected? He actually got that. Why wouldn't that upset you?
Evidence we have now, and everyone says, "Well, why don't you bring it to the Supreme Court now?" Because I'm afraid right now they wouldn't look at it.
They wouldn't look at it.
We have to get it all out there. Everybody. That's why it's so important to have.
I would take it to where it actually could do something, but I'm going to wait. I would rather wait and put it on my fake TV network and run up some ads and give people a bunch of promo codes for my pillows.
That's why it's so important to.
I have to remember.
Always get these words out.
I have to remember that this is my show, and I want to ask you questions. No. I mean, all seriousness, because you're like you take over. That's just what you do. But I won't have it on my show.
Right on.
But I want to say.
It is true, by the way.
I'm going to ask you questions that people are asking. Okay, they say, listen, and let's be fair, because I understand. I live in the world, and I know that there are people that. The reason they don't believe any of this is because it's fundamentally inconceivable and it's distasteful, and they would like to think, listen, yeah, you're on the other side of the issue and you're all hopped up, and there's always been
don't say hopped up to a former crack addict.
Irregularities and stuff, but come on, a presidential election was not overwhelmingly stolen. It's hard to believe. And by the way, if it had been, for crying out loud, surely the Supreme Court would have been open to seeing this stuff. It's not very conceivable to me that the Supreme Court.
By the way, is that an Apple laptop, you big tech loving bastard? Commie.
Wouldn't look at it. Why wouldn't they look at it?
Well, they didn't look at this stuff before. They've never seen this. No judge has ever seen this. And here, you've got to realize, Eric, every single person in this country knows there was some weird stuff that went on. You had the big spike in Michigan and Wisconsin.
Yeah, hold on one second. I should have been more prepared for this. I apologize, guys. 1 second. We need big spikes. Let's see, big spikes. Where's the big spikes? Let's see. There it is. Okay. There it is. Continue. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. Sorry. There we go.
What you're going to see now is 100% proof. Wow.
Okay, here we go.
Wisconsin. Well, everyone's going, well, those were the mail-in votes that came in. No, the mail-in votes were counted the morning of the 3rd.
Yeah.
So people.
No, they weren't. Those weren't not the mail-in votes. The mail-in votes might have been counted, but the absentee ballots, which were done in person, were counted during the night.
People need to get educated before we bring it to the Supreme Court and say, here's how they did it. Here's how it happened.
Why? If it either violates the Constitution or it doesn't. The evidence is either sound or it isn't.
I had the best people in the world validate the evidence that these other guys brought me.
Right.
So these guys are there, white hat hackers that work for the government,
right,
that protect us for cyber attacks on our country. Now, I just read this morning again, Chris Krebs, if I said that right.
Yeah.
He said, just like you said earlier,
Thanks,
he said
Foggy.
early, I think November, this was the most secure election in history.
Yeah.
Now,
But then he winked
then 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, him and Adam Schiff were on Morning Joe, and they asked him, they said, what's the biggest threat to the United States right now? And they both didn't even blink. China, a cyber attack right down to the local race. Now, if everybody in this country can go, wow, my company can get hacked, my business can get hacked, the government, state governments can get hacked.
Right.
What is it so hard to conceive that we got hacked by China? We have
You know what I think? That the reason I'm trying to process this with you.
How do we put this without wasting too much brain pan on this guy's argument? A future and ongoing threat is not the same as admission that something you insist happened. So one of the biggest problems we have with banking is credit card is like debit card fraud. Somebody gets your PIN number or they get a copy of it and they're able to steal it. That is one of the biggest and ongoing threats. It doesn't mean that because you spent all your money on hookers and blow that you can blame it on that.
With you because
But it's the biggest threat. That had to have been where my money went.
this morning, as I was coming here to the My Pillow factory, use the code Eric. As I was coming over here, we were talking in the car
Holy
about
smokes.
the hacked pipeline. And they were saying that it's hard to get gas in Tennessee and stuff. And I thought, this is mind-bending that with computers,
Right.
you could shut down. I mean, we're talking infrastructure, gas
Right.
pipelines, everything's
It's a private company.
computerized, and people act like that's a good thing until someone. I mean, but this strikes me as if you want to strike at the heart of America, I don't care who you are, China,
Right.
Iran, or I don't know. But the point is,
Why wouldn't you mention Russia? What's stopping you from saying Russia? The hack was Russian. Don Jr. didn't want to say it. Now you're saying China or Iran, but you can't bring yourself to say it was Russia, even though that's where this hack came from. According to your own goddamn country, you can't bring yourself to say this was a Russian hack. Why is that?
the point is like the idea that with a computer you
Everything.
could hack into. You don't
Right.
need to fly a plane.
That's
you can
right.
do it with computers, and you can shut down America. You can cause
Absolutely.
our
Yeah, that's why we need cybersecurity, and that's why Trump undermined cybersecurity the entire time he was in office. These are the ramifications of it.
economy to tank because you can shut down a pipeline. And I thought, how is it possible that people don't logically understand that if you're in China, it's in your interest to hurt America because for them it is a zero.
No, it isn't a zero-sum game. Do you understand what their trade deficit is? Do you understand that the companies in America actually build most of the stuff that they send to the rest of the world? That not only do they steal stuff and make us their R&D department, but they also make billions, if not trillions of dollars off of companies that sell in the United States because we're one of the biggest markets. Undermining this market is not valuable. But if you were Russia and you were siding with Trump and Biden's in charge, you would now do this hack now. You would order this hack during the Biden years in an attempt to try and build up resistance against him for 2022 and help Republicans take over.
Zero-sum game.
Right.
Why wouldn't people on both sides of the aisle understand that, of course, that they have rooms and probably buildings full of people dedicated to this?
They do have rooms full of them.
But they're not Democrats. They're not Republicans.
They're
communists who are anti-American.
You just nailed it right there. That's why it doesn't matter if you're
Nice.
a Democrat or a Republican. It's all Americans. We right now have to do something, and that's
Yeah, and the one thing we have to all do as Americans is not bring up the fact that it was a Russian hack. That's the most important thing.
what we're doing. Everybody's got to get educated on the evidence and know what happened. The media has been hiding this. Why?
Not me, brother. I have played every fucking one of this dude's videos all the way through and have broken it down line by line.
We don't know. They hide it. They suppress it. They don't report anything about it. And
well,
you can't say the word dominion. You can't say the word.
You can say dominion. I say it all the time. You just can't lie about them in a way that destroys their company, and they have the right to sue you for destroying their ability to make a living.
Smartmatic, you can't say these things. These machines were used. Now, let me just say this. When you talk...
No one is in trouble for saying Dominion and Smartmatic and these machines were used. Not a person. You think you're that dumb? You think that's what you're being sued for?
When you talk about, shutting down our...
Dominion, Smartmatic, Dominion, Smartmatic, Dominion, my Smartmatic, my Dominion, and my Smartmatic. It's Smartmatic town, Jake.
gas and stuff. Do you know about every year you get a major attack in the United States on credit cards? I mean, the credit cards, and we get contacted on My Pillow. These are the major ones that go nationwide. They'll hack in and do this big theft of the credit cards, and who pays for that? The public does.
We need to go back on the gold standard. That's my takeaway. We're going to go to a break.
We need to go back on the gold standard. What a dipshit.
Hey, folks, we're going to try to keep Mike here for the hour, and
I decided to go with the purple Zoltan mug because I thought waking up with purple would be less shocking. It's probably true, Robin.
Go over what we did yesterday. I've never done this program from a desk, so if I seem awkward, it's because I'm actually awkward.
You are awkward.
We'll be right. Folks, welcome back. As you can tell, I'm sitting very close to Mike Lindell. Mike, I got a lot of questions for you, but before I ask any questions, I just want to throw this out and you respond to this. My takeaway, because I have been so scandalized by the drift of the nation in many
Mike does not like where this is going.
ways, and the biggest
No, neither of these assholes is vaccinated.
takeaway for me, because I went to Yale and I grew up in the New York world, I think what happens is that there's, what the cognoscenti, the cultural elites, they look at somebody like you from Minnesota with your accent and your mustache and your,
All the things that Eric Metaxas laughed about this dude about until he paid for his whole show.
ebullient kind of attitude, and they say, he's not one of us. We don't speak that language. And no one we
Yeah, that's what elites do, is they look at people from Minnesota that way. What?
know and respect speaks that language. So we kind of automatically dismiss you. In other words, you could say 1 + 1 = 2, and they'll say, I don't know, because you are...
Because he has a Minnesota accent?
You're not speaking their language, but most Americans speak your language.
No, they don't. No, they do not.
And I think this is the...
Most Americans think this guy is a lunatic asshole. That's why it was a big deal that he was on Kimmel, because most Americans watch shows like Kimmel. They've never seen this shit except when it shows up in the news. And it only reaches that when it becomes an ongoing joke.
This is the dissonance at the heart. It's why people hated Trump. There's something...
No, it isn't. People hated Trump because he bragged that he could grab women between the legs without even asking. Because he insisted that Mexico was dumping rapists and murderers on our border. And so that anybody who came across the border was more than likely not just a person who was crossing the border illegally seeking work or asylum, but they were literally sent, they were like let out of prison by the Mexican government and sent into the United States to rape and murder people. So anybody who crosses the border isn't just an illegal immigrant. It's worse than that. They are literally marauders sent by a foreign government to rape and murder Americans.
Cultural that folks, I just wrote about Galileo, how the people who disagree...
Yeah, that's Mike's just the new Galileo. Can you explain to Mike who Galileo is? Because on a religious level, Mike is absolutely on the side that would have strung Galileo up.
Agreed with him, refused to look through the telescopes,
Right,
because they just said it can't be true. Aristotle is right. You've got to be wrong. And we don't want to even know. And so when people refuse to watch absolute interference, absolute proof,
I watched both of them. They're both full of shit. They're garbage. They're poorly put together. They're drawn out. They're boring. They're repetitive. He's convinced easily by bullshit. It's a software demo that he's been sold for millions of dollars. And because he's a sap, he thinks he's discovered something. This is a man who is biting fool's gold on national television.
It strikes me that that is at the heart of it. They live in a world where it is not possible that you could be right.
You know, and it is.
No. They live in a world where it's easily checked that he is not right.
Doesn't that make you curious why if all the journalists, especially if I'm a journalist, I don't care if I'm from the Midwest, the East Coast, the West Coast, I'm going, hey, I'm going to at least watch that movie.
Look, I'm not a journalist. By the way, neither are anchor people. Tucker Carlson's not a journalist. Neither is Sean Hannity. They wouldn't say they are. The journalists are writers. They're the people that they have on as guests on nightly news shows. I've watched this guy's stuff, all of it. I've watched more interviews of him than he's seen of himself. You guys know this. Many of you have been through this with me. When he came out with a new movie, I did the whole thing. I didn't take a chunk of it, cut it out of context. That's what I do here. And it's embarrassing and annoying when this dickhead acts like nobody's watched it all the way through. I watched all the way to the end going, okay, maybe he's stupid enough in what he believes is a national emergency to anchor something with his best evidence instead of leading with it and then convincing you of the details afterwards.
I'm going to at least watch it. I told you on February 5th, not one.
I know, Anita, and I appreciate you guys who were with me on in the audience when I did those things because they were long.
Journalists watched it. It was a shame. They all called me when I begged Dominion to sue me. They finally sued me, and then they all called me, and I go. And then in the morning it started. Mike, Dominion's suing you. Dominion's suing. I said, did you watch Absolute Proof?
Yeah.
I'll call you.
None of them had it, not one. And I made them go back and watch the short version, which they can all go out there if they don't want to hear me talk on and on.
I did that version too.
Yeah.
They can watch the short version, 20 to 26 minutes long. But people,
By the way, Eric Metaxas has not watched all these things. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. This asshole turned it off halfway through or 10 minutes in. And the only case that Mike Lindell's movies have made at all is that Texas going to Trump was completely suspicious.
This is the thing, and this was said on Jimmy Kimmel too. He said, "Why of all the people in all the world, this divine thing that you get all the evidence, a pillow guy from an ex-crack addict in Minnesota."
But I mean, that's a good question.
But here's the answer. Who's been seeing, I've been on TV over 3 million times. I mean, so God gave me this big platform of notoriety and a guy with a big mouth.
It's not, the word is not really notoriety. As an English major, I just want to say it's celebrity, but go ahead.
Okay, well.
Notoriety implies negative, but everybody uses it wrong.
Okay,
Everybody in the country uses it wrong.
Okay.
It's actually, he's using it properly then.
So you're just my friend, so I dare to tell you.
Well, people came.
Infamy.
I used to be notoriety. No,
notoriety. You used to have notoriety. Now you have celebrity.
Let me tell you, we took pictures.
No, he doesn't have celebrity now. There was no point where he was a celebrity. It's all been notoriety from top to. I mean, the ShamWow guy had notoriety, and then infamy, and then yeah.
Pictures last night for over an hour and a half at the end.
Thank you.
And same thing. They always say, just one more. I said, I got all the time in the world. In the old days, the only ones that wanted my picture was the cops.
I know. It says, well, again, this is why your average American relates to you,
the average American does not relate to him. The fringe of the Republican Party, which is the entirety of Eric Metaxas' audience. And they think it's average because these are the people they come into contact with the most. That is not the average American any more than the leaders of BLM or Antifa are mainstream Americans. They're not. But in their circles, They're completely convinced that the world is made up of 80% them and 20% enemies.
You know,
and this is why I became a hub of a wheel. When people went into, after, this was January 9th when I got the first piece of evidence, but people just started pouring it onto me because I was the last voice, so to speak.
and because there was nowhere else to go.
There was nowhere.
That's right, because everyone else had looked at it and gone, oh, this is bullshit. Oh, well, thank God I don't have a crack-addled brain, or I would have thought this was real.
else to go. You think these guys come to me, they go, hey, I've tried everything to get this to the government, whatever, and I would get 50 of these a day.
Right, and they're like, would you pay me?
Day that I had to sift through, and they're going, here, this happened, this happened to me. All the ones that I consider organic theft or organic stealing, all those I had to put aside because they've already, no judge looked at those. Nobody wanted to see the, 8,000 dead people voted. They actually went to the graves and checked,
8,000 people didn't vote.
and the death certificates, they had the birth and death certificates. These things, I'm going, well, we're not looking at that, but the machine.
It's utter bullshit. I'm sure people showed him to that and went, look, here's a list of dead people's names. Here's a list of people who voted. These are the same names. Are they the same people? No, they're just people with the same names.
Thing was different. The machines were different. I go, what? I go, that's how they could do it. Because the one thing I'm in here is math. I look at deviations all day, and I could not explain like 10 million votes. I'm going, how? I went.
It might be that you're getting only partial information. From an algebraic standpoint, maybe you're making assumptions about what X means instead of based on your own desires for how how it should turn out. You're looking at the equation instead of going, what am I actually working with? You're going, I want the sum to be different, so X must be wrong.
I went state by state. This is me doing this daily, from 11, 12 hours a day, going through county by county, going, this is impossible. This is impossible. Look, just like I do radio stations and TV stations.
Well, see, people don't know this about you. I just want to say, because I've been with you now for a couple of days here, and I watch you.
You have?
And I feel like it's similar to Trump. You're both
deluded. You snort a lot of odd substances. Does he have boxes of green Sudafed in those drawers behind you?
Geniuses. He went to Wharton, and he has made all this money, and you have made all this money from nothing.
From what?
From being a...
sorry, from nothing? Trump made his money from nothing? He's a second-generation rich kid. He had to borrow money from his siblings just to keep the company afloat when he ran it.
Crackhead, you've built this gigantic company, but you come...
He built the company first, and then he got hooked on crack.
Across like a regular guy, so people can't believe that you're in the weeds with the data and stuff, but you are that with your company.
By the way, and it's because that he was already rich that he was allowed to slide when he got busted for drugs.
I saw you do that yesterday. You were checking the doors and micromanaging everything.
I had to add this into, I got to get this many people through and by this time.
But you just seem like such a normal guy. People cannot imagine. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel really in a very condescending way said, do you even know what IP stands for, Mike? Like you're an idiot.
Right.
And he didn't.
And I think to myself, that's...
I think to myself, he doesn't.
What people think, and a lot of the way people process information, it's not by facts and data, it's by instinct. They look at you.
Oh, fucking hell. Instinct. I see. So this should be called absolute instinct then? We're just going to call... What in the world, Justin, are you talking about? What? Instinct. 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 Internet photographs. Right. This has all just been about instinct? Criminy.
They size you up. They don't have time or the inclination to look more deeply. But the
I did. I looked at all of this shit. It's garbage.
Problem is, that's what...
The problem is, I watched it, Eric, and you didn't. You have not watched it. I guarantee it. Here's one, Eric. Eric, the second female guest that he had on the show, was she wearing a hat or not? After Melissa Caroni was on the long form. I'll wait. Think about it for a second. Go look it up. Go speed through. It's a trick question. She wasn't on camera. She was his producing partner. She was one of the executive producers, but she wouldn't even show up on camera. They used a picture. Because if you saw her, you would go, oh, this is a crazy person. She's obviously not trustworthy. You would make all those assumptions because you would have seen her living room. They decided not to show her.
That's what journalists are supposed to do, and they're not doing it. In other words, they're just looking at their friends. What do their friends say? How do their friends think? Oh, yeah, they think Mike is a goober from flyover territory.
He is a goober. But Minnesota is not flyover territory.
Imagine if he
Kansas is.
were the one at the center of this worldwide controversy of America. It's not possible.
Right. But
He's not. He's not at the center of it. He's a barnacle on electoral politics.
you know what? I think that's where a lot of the journalists are torn, because you realize they knew me. All of a sudden, everything changed in 2016.
Yeah.
When I went all in and did a press release that I had met Donald Trump, I was the media's darling.
Yeah.
I was the media.
There was no point where Mike Pillow was the media's darling.
Darling, I could say, hey, I'm building on a new wing here at the corporate office. I just hired 300 new employees, and they'd all come. NBC, ABC, CBS, everybody would come. How many did you hire? Oh, Mike Lindell, he's in all over the media. But then they turned on me, Eric.
Yeah.
I came back to Minnesota and did a press release. It was crickets.
Yeah, and you were like, God chose this man. And they're like, wait a minute, God chose the guy who says he can grab women between their legs without asking, and says that Mexico is literally shipping rapists and drug dealers across the border. And so anybody that comes into the country is not just a random rapist and drug dealer, but one sent to destroy America by the Mexican government. That guy. You think that guy is Jesus's messenger? Oh, right. We forgot you're a lunatic.
They called me a racist. They called me, you name it.
Wait a minute, you're saying you're not a racist?
Yeah, well,
Breaking news on the air. We're never breaking news.
Minneapolis, my friends were a little upset when I was called that then.
But it's so extraordinary too that, and the cheapening of.
Was that a I have a black friend moment, or was that, or did he have to die? Did he have to break away? He started in on that and then had to leave because he doesn't.
The term race.
Yes, I agree, John. This date is not going well. Not that they're not both going to get laid, but I just feel like there's not going to be a second date. My feeling is Eric is going to ghost Mike. Thank you, Sarah.
Racist. It's a staggering thing. I mean, I've literally written 2 books about people whose life effort, but biographies, were against racism, tribalism, xenophobic attitudes, and people have called me a racist. And you think, this is just.
It's funny. I wrote a book. I couldn't possibly, just because my behavior, my attitudes, and my actions since I wrote those books have been awful at many, many turns. How can people? I wrote a book called I'm Not Awful.
It's a staggering moment in American history. People are throwing terms around that really, it's a big thing to use.
Yeah. They would call this guy a drug addict when all he does is rock back and forth, jut his tongue, and rub his nose all the time. I don't know where they're getting this stuff.
And they're using it for everything.
They take things at the wrong. They'll not focus on the issue to deflect. It seems like I was doing a show in Chicago, and I was on this show with this black lady, and it went all over Chicago. This is about 3-4 years ago. It was before I might have been in 16, early 16, and I was on there. I come from the street of Minneapolis. When I'm down there, and I'm on her show, and I said, everybody in the inner city is either on drugs or dealing drugs.
Yeah.
And I said that, and she goes, "You're stereotyping us," and she just went off on me. And
everybody in the inner city is either on drugs or selling drugs, and someone was upset by that assumption. You what now?
And I said, "Listen here, lady." I said, "I lived it. Other than my one drug dealer's Christian mother who sat and prayed for us, I said everybody was affected by drugs. They were, and
you didn't say affected by drugs, dumbass. You said everyone in the inner city is either on drugs or selling drugs. Fuck you. What?
we got into it. I left the show. Everyone in Chicago, I think, called in, said, he's right. He's here to help us. You know, I got the Lindo Recovery Network.
Yeah.
And just she had to have me back on her show and apologize. It wasn't, you know, where was she?
What'd she say in the follow-up interview? Did she now? I call bullshit.
I was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said everybody. Yeah, I said other than this, of the people I knew. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Of the people I knew. Because you were a crack addict. You didn't hang out with anybody else. You only came into the inner city as a well-to-do rich white guy to buy and use drugs. Fuck you.
I mean, it doesn't mean everybody was.
No, look, people are sniping. They're looking. I've said.
Then don't say it. She reacted to what you actually said, you goon.
I've said things sarcastically and humorously.
Well, sarcastically, maybe we'll give you that. Humorously.
People have quoted it as though it was said ex cathedra from a podium, speaking to the, you know.
Ex cathedra made him blink. He doesn't know what it means.
To the UN.
Right.
And I thought, this is not right, because they're not putting things in context.
Right.
But I want to, there's so much I want to ask you.
Hey, asshole, guess what? You're going to learn something that all comedians know, and I'm going to sign off on this because I gotta go eat some food because the food got here a little while ago, and it's been cooling while I've been sitting here. And I ran long because I missed you guys last week, and I wanted to hang out more. Let me explain something to the Eric Metaxas of the world and the Mike Lindells of the world that most comedians will know, especially if you've been in it long enough. The newbies never seem to get this, and the people who gave up on it and quit never seem to get it either. That you are 100% responsible for how your jokes are received by any given audience. It's not them. It's never the audience's responsibility to get what part of your joke was set up and which was punchline, what part of the premise was real. None of it. You don't have to say anything that you say on stage. It is all completely from your brain. You are the responsible party. No one is making you say this. No one is making you make these jokes. No one is guaranteeing that you will be funny just by speaking. So you have 100% responsibility for every word you utter. And if an audience doesn't know you're joking about something, or you get quoted out of context, it's because you, in your infinite assholishness, are telling jokes to an audience that are funny to you, but not to them. And you are mixing them in with your normal speaking tone in such a way that it does not differ enough for them to disengage what you're joking about and what you're being serious about. That's not their fault. If you're misquoted in an article because you said something in jest, pardon? Oh, that was Siri talking? That's funny. I'm not talking to you, Siri. Everything you say is fine. That's why I gave you an Australian accent. As a comedian, you can't say, well, that line was a punchline. That was a joke. I was kidding about that part of it. You just didn't think so. Then you need to fix your shit. You're responsible for that part of it. Always. Because it is your show and your language that is coming out. And if you're on a radio show like he is, or anybody else is, or you do a show like mine, and someone misunderstands you, it's not their fault. If somebody misunderstands what I'm saying on this show, I reshape it. I find a new way to make the argument that I was making in a way that, isn't offensive or doesn't upset them or whatever. If I was trying to upset them, I kind of don't care. If I'm, urinating on trolls as I am wont to do, I don't really care. That's the whole purpose of it. But if I was saying something in support of something and people thought that I was being sarcastic when I wasn't, or if I was being sarcastic about my support of something and not supporting it in real life, and they didn't get it, it's not their fault. It's that I wasn't clear about it. I don't have to apologize for that. I do not. As a comedian, you don't have to apologize. You just have to reshape the conversation. And if people can't get off that fact after you reshape it, you go, what I was actually saying was this. I was being sarcastic. I wasn't clear about that part. That's not something I have to apologize for. And so when comedians apologize for jokes, it's just a wreck. It's a train wreck. Forget it. Don't do it. Just find a new way to tell the joke. Yes, and an excellent point, Kitten, is that the reason he's saying that is because it wasn't a joke. It was a snide remark. He wasn't saying something in jest. He was saying something to be a prick, and they wrote it down as such. But as the impeti of the actual statement, the first person uttering this in a rhetorical situation, be it a comedy show, be it radio, be it an interview even, where someone's asking you a question, if you choose to answer that question, then every word you say is your responsibility as far as the clarity. If they cut something and don't cut part of they scissor off the explanation part and people get upset about that, then what you can do is read the rest of what I said. It's that simple. But it's always on you. It is always on you as a performer. And I've said stuff and people have gotten upset about it, and I've just said, you didn't understand what I was saying. I was actually saying something else. You actually got the inverse of what I was saying because you were afraid you were going to hear that or you wanted to hear that. So anyways, love you guys. Appreciate you hanging out.